strong. Hold on, we're live. There we go. All right.
All right, everybody. Thank you so much for coming to Frederick Pictures and Properties. If you don't follow us on Facebook, we are changed our name to Pictures and Properties because next Monday, I know it's football, I'm sorry, but we're doing a Hagerstown meeting at Thick and Thin Brewery. It's a brand new brewery that just opened up in Hagerstown, so looking forward to hopefully seeing a few of you here. And then we also have, there's a Carroll County meeting, our boys here today in the back. It's called Ales and Assets. He's waving around, so if anybody lives in Carroll County and is interested in doing some real estate stuff over there, make sure to check it out. Thank you all for supporting Steinhardt Brewery. We're glad to have you, even though it's cold today, and thanks again. So, real estate agents, raise your hands. There we go. Why isn't Friend's title here? Where's that's cool. All right, I got him now. We do have a title company, Friend's Title, who is always here. McClister, Salisbury, and Foley usually comes too, so support them. And I myself do hard money, we do traditional money and debt service coverage at CBM Mortgage. And we also have, is Zach here today? Zach's in the back. He's done a couple hard money deals for people that I know as well. So we have some different products that we kind of partner on sometimes. Today I want to introduce you to Alex Harshman. I probably met him at one of the first meetings I ever went to, I think maybe in Hagerstown. And he does wholesaling. He teaches how to wholesale. He does long-term buy and hold, a lot of burring. Have you done a flip that you've sold yet? Okay, he does flip. He kind of does it all, but what he's talking about tonight is his Wholesale Academy. So tell us a little bit how you got into real estate and then what brought you to the Wholesale Academy.
Got it. So, can you hear me? Awesome. Yeah. So I probably won't be as loud, but
keep it close to your mouth.
So my name is Alex Harshman. I did get started in Washington County. Actually, that's where I was born and raised. I've been there my whole life. And I kind of come from a chaotic and unpredictable childhood. So from that, I kind of learned early on that I just didn't want to live life like that after I turned 18. So I decided to join the military. And I got into the military, did really well. It's really funny because no matter where you come from, who you are, what you look like, how much money you got, the military training instructors don't care. You're all equally worthless. So, it helped me level the playing field. And really that's where I developed myself as a person, as a man. And before this, before the military, I couldn't get in front of people and speak. Like, it was just really hard, just couldn't do it. So with that, it helped me develop to where I need to be today to run my business and all the skills that I have. So I had this award that I won in the Air Force. It was like #1 guy in my job for my rank, and I thought I was going to get all this crazy bonus pay, time off, and it was actually just an oversized paperweight. So I learned that if I applied myself outside the military, I could probably do a really good job. And as you all probably know in today's market, if you just put 100% in on your job, you'll probably do okay.
You're probably beating 98% of people if you just show up on time.
Exactly, yes. So it's really hard to find that. I mean, we just went out to dinner last night, and it was or yesterday, or Monday, someday, and it was a terrible experience. So if you can just put it 100%, 110%, you will separate yourself so far from the competition. And I learned that, so I decided to get out. I was going to work for my dad. We didn't get along in the first place, so I thought that was a great idea. He had his own business doing hardwood flooring. He works really hard. He's 6'5", 255-pound bodybuilder. He looks just like me with a bald head. And man, this dude was doing like 3,000 square feet by himself. And so I thought that would be a great idea to help him. And 2 months in, I realized my body doesn't really like that. So working hard for money wasn't the option. And I told him about working smart real estate, and he was like, nah, it's a scam. You gotta be lucky, you gotta come from money. And so I was like, yeah, I don't think that's the way it is. And I took a leap of faith, read books, watched videos 8 hours a day, told my wife I was quitting the job. We didn't have much money. She's like, all right, I trust you. And so, one thing led to another, and I went to an event just like this. network with some people who offered me a position, cold calling sellers and wholesaling. I wasn't even interested in wholesaling. I just wanted to know about it. And through just networking, they opened that opportunity up to me, and the rest is history.
So I have a couple questions. One, I can't tell you how many people tell me that they would love to do what we're doing and then never show up to any of these. So all of you are 98% ahead of the population. But correct me if I'm wrong, and maybe it's because you're more, a more muted demeanor, right? But were you shy? Is that why you couldn't speak in public, or?
Yeah, so I mean, coming from that chaotic lifestyle, everybody had their parents with them and everything. So at an early age, you kind of feel like you're the oddball. And so just having that mindset, that poor mentality growing up, it really affected me and my ability to confidently talk to people and be in front of them. So.
Okay, and so then you went from that to cold calling, which is, I can speak in front of a lot of people and no problem, and I hate doing that. So how did you get over that hurdle? Because you don't see the money until you've done that for a good bit of time and probably perfected that craft. So walk us through that.
Yeah, so those people that, opened that opportunity up to me, what they did was they said, hey, here's a list of people, here's a script, go ahead. That was the guidance that I had. And I had no cold calling experience prior to that. I just winged it. And, I had my family, I just had my daughter. It was one of the major reasons why I got out of the military. And so I had to make it work. So it was like sink or swim kind of thing. And the first phone call, I still remember to this day, I told the seller, I said I was looking for, Casey or something. And he was like, do I sound like a Casey? And he cussed me out and hung up. So I was like, oh, okay, this is how this is going to go.
But you got through it and you kept pursuing it. How long did you do that before you started teaching people how to do that? And then I also want you to tell people where you were doing your wholesaling, because it wasn't in state, which is pretty interesting as well. So tell us that.
Yeah, so with that group of people, I cold called 600 people in my first month. I was just like day in, day out cold calling, and I got 3 contracts, and that's how I landed my first deal. And then they were paying me like a 10% commission. So I wouldn't technically say that was my first one, but I landed my first deal just by, I had one Investor Carrot website. It was like $50 a month, and I wholesaled that property and made $65,000, my very first deal. So from there, I invested into a mentor, and he was a virtual wholesaler. Some of you may have heard of him, Kong from Wholesale to Millions. Does anybody know who he is?
Yes.
Okay, at least, yep, King Kong, yep, let's go get that money. So that's him, and him and I are actually really good friends. So that's who I partnered with in the academy, and he's the guy that runs it, and I'm the head coach for it. But he, through his mentorship and just through taking action, I dove into a virtual market, New Orleans. Never been there. I've done a couple dozen deals, and I feel like I've learned that market as if I lived there, just from the deals I've done. So it's a pretty cool experience.
How did you go there before you? So first, I want you to break down what wholesaling is and what that process looks like, and then tell us a little bit about that market that you went to.
So is there anybody here that's wholesaling or trying to wholesale right now? Okay, a couple people. And who doesn't know what
And why are
wholesaling
you in
is?
the back? You can't hear us. I'm just kidding.
Anybody who doesn't know what wholesaling is, by chance? Okay. So we got at least a couple people. So wholesaling in a nutshell is we're marketers, right? We try to find these off-market properties direct to seller. And that's via cold calling, direct mail, text blasting, you name it. We're directly contacting these sellers and trying to put the property under contract at a price that makes sense for us to make our wholesale fee, as well as for the flippers or the buy and hold investors to make their money. So you have to get it deeply, deeply discounted for this to make sense.
Now, what kind of person would want to sell their property at a discount?
So these types of people are going to be in a distressed situation, whether they're going into foreclosure, so pre-foreclosure, driving for dollars, which is my favorite. You drive down the street, see a distressed property, you get the address, skip trace the owner, call them up. And then you have people who are...
We'll go over what skip tracing is, but keep going right now.
So then you have, probates, code enforcement, that's my favorite list. There's tons of lists you can get for free, tons of leads you can get for free, and then there's also paid leads that you can get. and try to get them yourself.
So correct me if I'm wrong, the types of distressed owners or distressed properties who would be selling these properties to you at a considerable discount are going to be people who either maybe bought, the family member died and they're trying to offload a property that they don't want to fix up quick, right?
Right.
2, are they real estate investors like us?
No, most times no.
Okay. Are they people that live in the property?
Sometimes they are, and sometimes they're not.
Okay. So you have to, your talent is going to be finding out what they want to get them out of that house and to give it to you for a considerable discount. Does that make sense to everybody? Okay.
Yeah.
Go on.
So, just like she said, you want to find people who want to sell fast because their pain points, they got to get rid of this property. It's an inconvenience. It's a headache for them. Some of us know what that's like. If you have, let's say, a trash service and you don't want to go to the dump, you'd rather hire somebody to do it. So you would be a motivated customer in that, small aspect. But with that, these sellers, you're providing a value to them. So a lot of people get in trouble because they think that it's just finding a property, putting it under contract, and then giving it to an end buyer, and that's it. And that's where you can get yourself in trouble as well as the homeowner because they're in a distressed situation. So as a wholesaler, again, you're not selling the property, you're selling the contract that you're getting on the property. That's the difference, because then you're going to be an agent if you're selling the property, which we're not.
This is also not someone who just bought the house and has hardly any equity. Are you looking for completely paid off? Are you looking for halfway paid off? How are you finding that information?
Yep, so I pulled my list from services like PropStream, Batch Leads, things like that.
PropStream and Batch Leads?
Correct. Yep.
Okay, got it.
And then you can also go to listsource.com. It's a little bit more expensive. But pro tip, if you go to yellowletters.com and you sign up for their monthly membership, it's like $97 per month.
And is that yellow letters, like the color and letters.com? Okay.
Yep, and you can sign up for their monthly membership. It's for ListSource, and you can pull lists at a discount on ListSource. And so ListSource has a little bit better data quality as far as I'm concerned. And then the PropStream and Batch Leads is a good budget alternative. So I've done deals on both.
So wholesaling is essentially a marketing business and a people reading business where one aspect you're finding properties that are either distressed or the sellers want to get out of these properties, maybe a personal financial situation, but they also have the properties either paid off or paid down considerably to where there's enough equity for you to make a spread. And you're also not an agent, so you are not actually selling the house. You're basically putting seller and buyer together. And then the buyer side is another portion of the marketing business that you have to market to. So how do you find buyers?
Yeah, it's a great question. And like she said, as a wholesaler, we're in the business of buying houses. And as an agent, you're in the business of helping that person sell their house or find a buyer for that house, right? You have a fiduciary duty to that seller or to the buyer. We do not. So obviously you want to be ethical in everything you do. But whenever we're trying to find buyers, the way you do that is come to events like this. I found so many buyers from real estate meetups.
I was one of them.
So, yeah, you come across sellers in all types of, distressed situations, demeanors. I mean, I've dealt with the easiest sellers and I've dealt with the most difficult sellers, and they happen to buy the property from the most difficult seller that I've ever dealt with. He even backed me into the garage and threatened to beat me up. It was so bad. It was just,
We were at
terrible.
the title company and he was screaming. We could hear him 2 rooms down. It was
Yeah,
great experience though.
Great deal.
Yeah.
Great deal. But you got to learn how to handle people like that, and not a lot of people are willing to do that. So it's more like it's marketing, customer service for sure, and being able to read people and to handle their problems. So a lot of people just want somebody to listen to them. I'm very introverted, naturally, so I listen more than I talk. So that's one of my strengths.
Perfect. And then, okay, so does anybody have any questions before we move on? Because I feel like wholesaling is a couple different parts. So I want to make sure that we go through the first couple questions and then towards the end the other. You had a question?
Still no confusion about being a realtor. You're finding a seller and you're putting it with the buyer. That's what realtors do. Find a seller, put it with the buyer. So how come you're not classified a realtor?
Because I'm selling the contract and not the property. So I assign that contract to an end buyer who's buying that contract for a marked up price.
You just happen to have a house on that contract.
Correct.
It could be anything.
So the contract is what gives us wholesalers equitable interest, and that's what gives us power over, controlling that property. Because an investor could go behind us and say, "Hey, I'll buy this property from you, for a little bit more. I don't have to pay as much to the wholesaler." But the equitable interest in that contract is what protects us. And also, most times, investors don't want to spend the time or money to find their deals themselves, so they go to wholesalers. So we actually provide a very valuable thing to the marketplace.
Yeah, I use you at advice all the time.
So that's the difference. Is we're selling the contract and not the property.
Any other questions?
So as a wholesaler, what kind of expense do you have?
Wholesaling, so you have your systems, which is going to be your CRM, customer relations manager. So things like Podio. I use a program called REIA Sift. Real estate agents can use that as well. So you have CRMs, you have your dialers. If you're doing cold calling, you have your marketing. So whether that's text blasting, direct mail. And the biggest thing about wholesaling is you want to have it consistent. That's what's going to separate you from the competition. It's not you do a $5,000 marketing campaign and then you stop. It's you do $1,000, $100, whatever it is. I was doing $50 a month on an Investor Carrot website, and it made me $65,000. So it doesn't really matter as long as it's consistent.
Any other questions?
Do you mean consistent to the same properties over 6 months? You do the same house every 6 months, or every month or 6 months? Is that how you got your property?
So
or is it everybody always a different address?
Good question. So you can pull new lists every time and hit new people, or you can hit the same people. Obviously with direct mail, you get return mail. You want to filter those people out, but you can hit. So typically on a sales in general, it takes about 5 times, touching that prospect 5 times before they convert to a sale. It's pretty much the same thing to the sellers. So think about it as I'm going to hit these sellers with direct mail at least 5 times before I change my marketing strategy for that particular seller, or I just continue hitting them. So I actually go really granular now, where I track every single prospect that's in my database, and I know exactly what they've been hit with, how many times, when, and then if they've ever been talked to. So, you can get as granular as you want, but just starting out, you want to at least have some kind of basic Excel sheet. Podio, it's free, something to manage these prospects.
He's given a lot of really good tidbit websites, so if you didn't write them down, make sure to get them from him afterwards, or rewatch it on Pictures and Properties. But go ahead.
When you started wholesaling, did you also have like a normal 9-to-5 job, or did you basically quit everything to start this?
Yeah, I got out of the military, worked for my dad, didn't work out, so I quit everything. I had like $7 grand in my bank account, and I was going to buy apartments with that because I watched Grant Cardone. And I didn't realize you had to have money to, buy these apartments unless you do creative stuff. And that's where I learned about wholesaling, and I just networked with somebody, and that's how it started.
Okay, so definitely want to move in. Oh, did you have a question earlier?
Yeah, your Carrot website, that lead that you found, was that through organic traffic, or did you use that as a landing page?
I'm glad you asked that. So pro tip, if you have an investor website, whether you're a realtor or an investor that's buying houses, and then you have something that says we buy houses on Google, what I did is I put it in my Instagram, and I would do this thing where I would follow, unfollow people to build my followers, right? And what happened inadvertently is people were checking out the website that I had on my bio, and because of that, it was boosting the rankings of my website. So I was #1 on Google, and that's how I got that. So I don't know if it still works, but 3 years ago it did.
Okay, so re-explain that again okay, so you went on Instagram, you put your We Buy Houses Carrot website page on there, you would follow people and then unfollow them once they follow, or to ensure that they were following you back, you'd unfollow them then. And then those people were looking at your profile, clicking your page, and you were getting this inadvertent traffic, which led to your $65,000 lead, correct? Okay, perfect. Any other questions before I move on? Okay, perfect. So you do invest in Louisiana. right?
I did. Now I'm kind of, if I get a deal, I get a deal. But since I'm buying primarily now, I just stay here local.
Okay. And when you were doing that, did you ever go there?
No.
Okay, so you've
Never
never
been there.
Okay. He's never been there. And how many deals have you gotten there?
Probably close to 20, 24
Okay.
that I've done. Yeah.
And how long were you doing that for?
I did that for about a year and a half.
So you got 20 to 24 deals in a year and a half?
Yep.
That's really amazing. And what's the average fee? Doesn't have to be fixed, just an average of each fee of those properties, and what was the price of those properties?
So I would say the average fee was about 10 to 15,000.
Okay.
Some notable ones. One, can I talk about one that I got for free? And
Yeah, let's
so
do it.
really cool. You guys are gonna like this, maybe. So I had a deal that I got completely free using Google Street View. I was actually researching a property that we got a lead on, and in the Street View I saw this abandoned 16-unit complex. I was like, wow, that looks interesting. So I looked up the tax assessor's page and found it was owned by an LLC. If you go to opencorporates.com, you can find the owner of that LLC. If you take that person that owns it and you go to truepeoplesearch.com, you can get the phone number of that person for free. Called him up. Sure enough, he held on to it for like 16 years, never did anything with it. He was an investor, very savvy investor. I think he was part of like he was like the mayor or something, or somebody political up there. And he was like, yeah, give me $300,000 for it, and I don't care what you do with it. I told him I was wholesaling because he was an investor. He knew what he was, and so I said, okay, cool. I have people that are interested, and sure enough, we had a buyer at $400,000 like the next week. And through some negotiations, some problems with the seller, because he was one of those people who wanted to be in control. So you have to deal with that as well. And we came to an agreement at like I think $75,000. I had a partner that went out there, and we both brought the same buyer, but he was on my buyer's list first. I still wanted to take care of him because I've done business with this guy, so I ended up paying him like $10K as a fee, like kind of a JV.
Like a referral?
Yeah, he took pictures for me, so I didn't want to waste his time. Wanted to keep that relationship built, so I ended up making like $65,000.
I thought it was free.
For free.
Oh, okay.
For free.
Okay, because the guy gave you the client because he was originally on your buyer's list. Or your seller's list.
Yeah, I marketed to my buyers, and that guy marketed to his buyers.
Got it.
But
Okay.
mine came in first. So.
Got it. Okay. Very cool. So yeah, you've done a lot in Louisiana, and then you started doing where you're teaching people what to do. What kind of objections do you get from your students, and how do you combat those?
As far as objections from the students?
Yeah, like how could I do that, or like everybody has biases before they actually do something.
Got it.
And they find out that it's actually much easier than they think it is, but there's always that fear mentality. So what are kind of, just for the group, they might have some of the same objections, so I'd love to hear what your common objections that you get.
Yeah, so a lot of people, I mean, it's an investment, right? So if you're investing in any kind of course, mentorship, whatever, it's money that you're going to put towards, saying that you're going to do this. So for a lot of people, 90% of people, I'd say 98% of people, it's really hard to do, and that's why they don't do it. That's why they don't do this real estate thing. So what I tell them is, hey, you got to see the value in it for yourself. If you don't, it's not going to make sense. But just know this: if this is going to mean a lot to you by putting this money down, I can almost guarantee you're going to put the work in. If you don't, it's going to be, you're going to be regretting it every single day. So you got to be ready. If you're not ready, think about it. Come up with a plan, whatever, and whatever their doubts are, I address them. Usually it's something like, how can I know that I'm going to get a deal in 60 days? Well, I say, don't think about it like that. It took me 9 months to get my first deal off that Investor Care website. All I was doing is $50 a month marketing. So if you can change your mindset from, hey, I'm going to give myself 60 days to do this, to I'm going to give myself a year to do this, and then I'm going to change my strategy if I need to at that point. Have that longevity mindset, that abundance mindset, the scarcity mindset, and I've encountered it numerous times. So that's what I tell them.
Now, did you think this way before you did it, or were you with the handwritten cards to just give that personal touch? Do you take just like an hour a day to handwrite notes? And that was kind of how he got a few deals. He more or less dabbled in it, but he didn't dabble in it that long, and he ended up getting, I believe, a 4-unit or an 8-unit, something like that he actually ended up holding because he didn't want to sell that particular one. But so now towards the end, you're teaching people. Can you just give a breakdown of what the class entails? Like, where do you start? Is it the marketing side? Is it all these websites? Like it's a lot of information. I'm sure some people here are just like, I'm spinning. But what's a good simplified breakdown of what you teach?
Yeah, so being a part of the Academy, you get the online course that Colin's created. It's a step-by-step guide.
I'm sorry, what's the Academy again?
So it's called the Wholesale to Million Academy, and you get a course that's a step-by-step guide, whether you're doing it locally or virtually. I always tell my students, hey, if you're going to be doing this, try it in your own backyard first, because you can leverage your hustle. You can go out there, take pictures. You can, go to the property. Virtually, you got to kind of change your mindset, because now you're leveraging other people to do that for you, which takes money and now time out of other people's day, and you got to learn how to manage that, which is like a separate thing. You can do it, but it's a whole different, ball game as far as I'm concerned. So I would say, watch that step-by-step guide, and then we have every single Monday at 8:30 p.m. you get to talk to me for an hour, ask any questions you want, wherever you're at in your business. That's the time we go over it. Every Tuesday we have a cold call role play, so you can better talk to the sellers. Every Friday we have accountability meetings, Q&A session. So, and then every last Monday of the month, Colin brings on a member. He brings himself as well as a member from his collective genius. You have to pay $25,000 to get into per year, and you have to do over $1 million per year or 100 deals per year to get in. And he brings these guys on to talk to you for an hour once a month and to pick their brain. So you get a lot of value. Again, you got to see it for yourself, but I would just say, whether you do something like this or you go out on your own, just make sure that you learn how to talk to sellers as a wholesaler. Even as an investor, that is the #1 skill I can say that you could get as an investor that would pay you dividends, in any avenue you go down. So,
are there any books that you'd recommend for that skill itself?
Absolutely. So some of you probably read it. Chris Voss, How to Negotiate Like Your Life Depends on It. It's a great book. I changed my script, the wording on it a little bit. It's things like, am I catching you at a good time? I now change it to, am I catching you at a bad time? Because it gives you a no answer. And if they give you a no answer up front in the beginning of the script, you're more likely to get a yes at the end. So little psychological things. And the guy was a hostage negotiator. So psychologically, he had to say and do the right things to get what he wanted. And it's the same thing in sales. So highly recommend that book.
All right. Q&A. Any questions for what he's done so far? Please.
So why did you choose Louisiana as your virtual wholesale market?
Good question. So through networking with other investors, I've noticed that a lot of them were in the virtual market of New Orleans, and I asked why, and they said it because every time there's a hurricane, it's like an orchard. You got new deals every single time. So it's like, all right.
So I don't know if anyone heard back there, but he said, why did you choose Louisiana? And that was his response, was that it's like the hurricanes come through and it's like an orchard, new deals every day.
Yes.
Cool. Okay. Anyone else? Yep.
So, which one, like out of direct mail, SMS, blast, email, blast, cold calling, paid ads, which one's your favorite avenue?
Okay, I'm going to repeat the question. He wanted to know the best avenue, cold call, mailing. What has he found that has been the best for you?
Cold calling, hands down. So cold calling and direct mail, I think, are the tried and true methods. And again, if you can learn how to master talking to sellers, not only can you scale that up a lot easier because you can train a VA to do that or a virtual assistant. I have 3 of them right now that work in the Philippines, and they do all my cold calling, they clean all my data, everything that I needed to do. That takes me, they take probably close to 80 to 100 hours off of me per week. And so I just stay at home with my kid, and my wife gets to go back to work because she wants to. So she's doing her dream job, I'm doing my thing, and cold calling. So yeah, that's the answer.
Now I know you said it takes 5 touches to get a client, but sometimes it's like 100 calls to get that one touch, right?
It could be, yeah.
Okay. So make no qualms about that. You may be calling quite a bit of times to actually get that first touch. What is your tip for making an impression on somebody?
I would say, so we have a script that controls 90% of the objections you're going to come across. So just not so much being a robot memorizing that, but again, listening to their problems. When you ask the questions, hey, what's, besides the right price, what's another reason you're considering selling? And then just listen. When they tell you about the property, the condition, just listen. A lot of people get excited, they cut them off before they, and then in that book I just told you about how to negotiate, it talks about these things that are called black swans, and they're keys that help you negotiate and get what you want. And that's when you encounter those black swans, like, yeah, it's a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 1,200 square feet, and then somebody would cut them off, and they were about to say, I really need to get rid of it because it's too much work, and you would have never even heard that if you cut them off. So just ask the question and stop talking.
I think most people are just so afraid that they're going to get off the phone, so they're trying to get all their words out. But what you miss in that is the listening aspect. And most of it, especially if somebody is in a distressed situation, is they just want to feel heard. And they have a problem that they think if you can solve it, they're going to probably keep you on the phone longer than you might want to be on the phone.
Yeah,
So.
that's happened. I mean, I had a seller talk to me for an hour, and I said probably 5 minutes worth of conversation. He's like, I'm so glad you listened to me, or we had a great conversation. I'm like, yeah, I only talked 5 minutes. So, really cool. And, but I forget what I was going to say.
That's okay. Cool. More questions. This one and then this one.
Yeah. So what? We'll go first.
And then somebody back there, I think, has a
Okay. So you're wholesaling it virtually, right? In another market, so that means you have to get them to send the pictures or record a video, right?
Yep.
So have you ever come across a time where this person's too old and not phone savvy? How do you manage that?
So you will have people who don't know how to use DocuSign, and when you're virtually wholesaling, that's a big deal because you got to get that contract signed. So just overnight it, make sure the paperwork is squared away, overnight it, give them a return envelope, and that's usually how I handled it. So it costs like $40-50, but if the deal falls through, it falls through. It's only $50 investment. If it doesn't, the money's there.
I don't know if you've been doing it long enough, but the changing in the market, whether it's just a couple months ago you could sell anything, nowadays it's getting harder. Rents a couple months ago, interest rates are super low, now the interest rates are going high. Does that affect you as a wholesaler at all?
Absolutely. So here's one of the things I get all the times from my students is, Alex, this house is in perfect condition. Is it a deal? Alex, this house smells like dog poo. Can I still sell it? And I tell everybody the same thing. The numbers are the numbers. So if the market changes, it's still a 70% rule. Some markets you have to sell it at 60, 65. It's an investor savvy market. In some markets you can sell it at 80, 85. It just depends on the demand, obviously, and then if the market changes, whenever you push the deals out there to your buyers and you get a lot of feedback, hey, that deal's too high, and you notice that's the general rule of thumb, then chances are your deal's too high. Go back, renegotiate, or try to figure something out.
So the other thing is, you were saying, one, I want you to explain to everybody what the 70% rule is, and then two, just be you gave us, you got us a deal, and it was relatively move-in ready. So, and that's what we tend to look for, and which is why we tend to buy more on the MLS. But I see a lot of wholesale deals tending to show what the ARV is. And are most wholesalers doing flips, or are there some, what is the percentage of flips to just move and ready, buy and holds, that kind of thing? Again, it is a distressed property, which is probably why you're more likely to see something that needs to be flipped. But are you still not going after stuff that would be move and ready, or are you?
As long as the numbers make sense. So if, like yours, for example, it still made sense for a rental for somebody that's going to buy it. Had I known what I know now, I would have bought it myself. But
I'll sell it to you for double.
I think the repairs on it were very minimal, if I remember.
Less than 5,000.
Yeah, so I mean that's a killer deal. That's hard to find. Ideally, I mean my 5-unit that I bought was the same way. It had less than 5,000, and I gained like 140,000 in equity immediately. So sometimes you get those deals, and then sometimes you get the ones that need $100,000 worth of work, and you break even on the Burr deal, which we can talk about that too.
Okay, first tell us what the 70% rule is.
So 70% rule says that, whatever the ARV after repair value is, so you find 3 comps, comparable properties that sold top of the market, you know, completely fixed up. Take those 3, average them out. That's going to be your after repair value. You multiply that by 70%. That's going to be what your investor is going to need to be at all in. So after repairs. So once you get that 70% number, you subtract your repairs that are needed, and then you're going to subtract your wholesale fee if you're wholesaling it. And that's going to give you your max allowable offer, your MAO.
So let's just do the math right now. You have a $100,000 ARV. It's $70,000 that you have to be all in. Let's say you said your average fee in Louisiana is a $10,000 to $15,000. So let's just take 10 off that 70, right? That's 60. And then let's say it has a $20,000 rehab, which is 40. So you need to get that property at $40,000.
Or less. Yep.
Okay. Does that help everyone? No one's listening to the math. That's fine.
So you have to be feasible. You have to be smart enough to know how to go, how much it's going to cost for a flipper to be able to go in. I mean, how much window you have to have an idea when it's going to cost this, new kitchen's going to cost this, floor's going to cost this. Do you need to know that in order to get it down to the 40,000? You have to know what it costs 20,000.
That's a great question. So he asked if you have to know, like have construction background or know what these repairs are going to cost, and the answer is no. So when I got started, I had no idea. I break more stuff than I fix. So my wife's laughing because she knows. So what I suggest is being a person of value as a wholesaler and being the person, the middleman, right? So you're trying to make everything work between the buyer and the seller. Don't be a know-it-all. When your buyers go out there and you say, I estimate $25,000 in repairs, and they say, whoa, you know, it needs $50,000, and you're getting that a lot, don't go back and say, I did my research, I know what I'm talking about. They're not going to deal with you. And I'm sure if you're an investor, you probably dealt with somebody like that. What you want to do is to say, okay, you know, what price are you ready to move forward at? Okay, great. Well, let me go back to the seller, see if I can make that work, and I'll let you know. So you go back to the seller, listen, you told me it was going to need 25 grand worth of repairs. It actually needs 50, so for that reason, I need to be at this number. If you get that price renegotiated, you go back to the buyer, say, hey, I got that price you wanted. They say, great, you move forward.
So I think a good question for investors maybe using wholesalers is ask the wholesaler how long they've been doing it. Because just experience in itself is going to let you know that your numbers, if they're consistently wrong, you're going to start getting them right the longer you do it. So for anybody buying from wholesalers, I would say ask them how long they've done it, and then maybe take that, because we don't flip anything. And so what we would do is take our stuff to our property manager and say, like, what do you think this needs to be moving ready and that kind of thing. And then we get our numbers from them because we don't have those numbers either. So that would be a good tip, I think.
Yeah, and reputation is everything. So this is a small world. Real estate investing is a smaller world than you think. So what I would say is ask for referrals. Hey, what are some good wholesalers that you know of? And even if you are dealing with a new wholesaler, you know, sometimes they don't know what they're doing. So if you're an experienced investor, maybe take them under your wing, say, hey, listen, I'll help you lock this deal up. You know, I'll pay you a bird dog fee or a small fee, and I'll teach you how the ins and outs are. And that's how you can help somebody become a great wholesaler, right? Instead of just turn them away, say, hey, you know, you don't know what you're doing, yada, yada, yada.
Perfect. Okay, I want to finish up by saying, where are you at in your journey right now? And what are you doing for yourself in real estate?
So right now, my primary focus is with family. A tip about that, I would say, is build your business around the lifestyle you want and not build your lifestyle around your business, because that can be very stressful. But with that, you know, where I'm at right now, my business, right now, my focus is on my kids and raising them and buying rentals. So I buy anything and everything I can that makes sense for me. I buy the 2% rule. I don't know, probably.
That's why I can't get deals from you anymore.
So I buy at a really great price. I try to. You know, there's investors that buy at better prices than I. You know, there's people that buy at the 1% rule, which is fine. But you know, for me, it's just building my wealth. So.
Now, are you finding most of your properties through you doing wholesaling up here now, or are you getting any off the MLS? Like, you're probably not doing that if you're getting 2%. So.
Yeah, I mean, MLS, I would say you probably find 1 to 5% of your deals on there as a wholesaler, because if it's on the market and it hasn't been already taken down by somebody else.
Maybe like for your buy and hold business, though. Are you doing wholesaling personally for yourself now, since you're buy and hold?
Yeah, I'll wholesale, so I'll cherry pick the best deals, and if I can, I'll wholesale the other ones. I just have a strict buying requirement, so it makes it easy for me just to wholesale and offload those ones and recoup some of my marketing costs.
And have you purchased any of your buy and holds off the MLS?
I have not, no.
So it's been all through your wholesale deals?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Got a question here?
You mentioned driving for dollars. What's your driving for dollars model? Who do you hire for that, and how does that? How do you-
Yes, what's his driving for dollars model?
So there's a couple things. So I had people that I would, ask if they have a job like a postal worker. So I had a friend that she's a carrier. She walks every day, and I had her access to the Deal Machine app, which is the Driving for Dollars app, and she would go on there and add properties for me that I would send mail to or cold call. And actually, my second wholesale deal I ever got, which ended up being the seller that referred me my 5-unit that created that equity for me. But yeah, you can add them to Deal Machine. Anybody who has a job like Uber, you go to Uber Facebook group, join it, and say, hey, listen, I got a gig where you can make money that you're doing already. You're already driving. So just put that property in this Deal Machine app. It's free, and it's really simple. They just tap to add. So you can get as crazy as you want with it, or you can just do it yourself. So right now, I primarily just do it myself.
My husband is a UPS driver. You've met Joe, and he'll look for things and then send it to people. So that's definitely cool.
Thank you for that. That's very
Awesome. Any other questions before you guys need to come up and chat his ear, or let him listen to you? He's a good listener. Cool. Thank you so much, Alex, for coming today. I encourage everyone who even if you're not interested in doing wholesaling, at least talk to him and just see kind of the ins and outs. It might even help you be the buyer of a property or so from a wholesaler. So, thank you guys so much. I appreciate it.